Thank you. I've been floating in and out, but I've really enjoyed your testimony. And by the way, my staff gave me some other interesting stuff. So, Mr. Medlock, first let me just say that 4-year-old who will find the next innovation who's currently playing with Legos is clearly my grandson. Okay, I'll just tell you that. So, Sam, if you're listening out there on TV to Paw, we're relying on you, buddy. And the other thing I'll point out, you mentioned how I'm struck how New York will not allow pipelines to be built through New York to bring natural gas to New England. And you point out, though, that New York has benefited by transitioning off of coal, among other ways, by using natural gas. My staff pulled to me the average monthly industrial bill, the cost per kilowatt. In New York, it's 5.92. In New England, it's 12.54. And so the inability to get cheap natural gas to New England has given New York a competitive advantage in attracting industry. This is economic warfare by other means. And so now I see why Governor Cuomo is so stringent upon that. And I'll share this with you, Senator King, because it is remarkable. The average price of kilowatts industrial in New England is 12.54 cents, and in New York it's 5.92 cents. Why would an energy-intensive enterprise move to New England? In Maine in particular, it is 9.20 cents, and you are the cheapest. Consider poor Rhode Island, 14.57 cents. So anyway, that said, Governor Cuomo's got a good thing going. Ms. Jacobson, you mentioned this, and so, no, I'm sorry, let me stay with you. I think it's Mr. Medlock. Let me go back to the testimony. Taking the different pathways of California and Texas, and I think I see here the industrial costs in California is 20 cents per kilowatt hour. No, 12.73 cents per kilowatt hour, and in Texas it's 5.45 or something such as that. Clearly that would have an impact upon the industrial base. Ms. Jacobson, I think you were speaking to that. To what degree do the cost per kilowatt hour influence whether industry will establish itself in one state versus another, or indeed one country versus another?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And I would just note, looking at the nation across the board to start, the fact book has really good data on how we compare with our retail electricity prices versus other competing nations.
But stay with the industrial.
Sure. We're number 2 to Canada amongst our major global competitors because we have low electricity prices as a country. In terms of state-to-state decisions, I mean, of course, there's a lot that goes into what would determine whether one facility would go into one location versus another. But certainly having low, predictable electricity costs is key. And I think—
So let me stop you for a second. If you exclude hydro, it does seem as if the cost basis for states more reliant upon renewable tends to be higher than the cost basis for those who are reliant upon natural gas. I've been struck, say, the Green New Deal, which is obviously a topic of conversation. I've read a report by academics that it would cost, if we were to decarbonize between now and 2060, it would cost, what was it, $30 trillion or something? Trillions of dollars, and that's over 50 years or 40 years as opposed to over 10 years. If we were to say that decarbonizing would dramatically increase the cost of transmission and of production and therefore of use, what would that do to the United States industrial base?
Well, when I look at the data, I see a very different story. We have a diverse electricity sector now, and costs for business and consumers are near record lows.
Well, I accept that.
So,
but that is with, I think I mentioned both you and Dr. Matlock spoken about natural gas kind of, if you will, allowing that transition to a lower carbon footprint, but at the same time keeping those prices a little bit lower. Did I misunderstand you?
No, I agree. The portfolio is essential, and I think if Congress is going to make forward-looking policies, it should do it recognizing we need all the resources available to us, and not to pick a technology over another. We really need to have the ability to evolve and anticipate. We can't anticipate the future.
Got it. Dr. Metlock, and any comments on that? To what degree do I mean, we just have to provide jobs for working Americans, and obviously lower cost electricity is part of that. To what degree could we completely transition away from fossil fuel and still have a low enough rate structure as to facilitate the creation of those jobs?
Well, this is exactly why I highlighted the role of innovation, the role of R&D, because if we're going to talk seriously about long-term economic health of this country, It's got to be a combination of, to use a trite phrase, all of the above. But the only way to do that and address a lower carbon footprint is through basic R&D in things like carbon capture, energy efficiency. All of these things matter. In fact, when you start talking about energy transitions and addressing local community needs, it's not just about clean energy. It's also about urban planning. It's also about how you actually think about things like infrastructure resilience.
And so to play off of what Senator Manchin was saying in his opening statement, knowing that Asia will continue to use coal, part of that innovation will be, as you say, what do we do about the carbon footprint of a resource that's going to be used, period, end of story.
That's precisely the point.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm out of time, and I yield back. Thank you for.
Thank you, Senator.